Hello, good evening. Welcome to this film talk, film after talk, organized by the Lichter Filmfest and the Künstlerhaus Mousonturm in Frankfurt, Germany. The Lichter Filmfest and Künstlerhaus Mousonturm have presented this movie, or currently are presenting this movie within the frame of the Lichter Filmfest 2021. Künstlerhaus Mousonturm is partnering this presentation and also hosting this talk tonight because we are regular collaborators of the director of this movie and his theater work, Milo Rau, who I present to you, besides on the side of his main, not only main character, but also main topic, or one of main topics of the movie, Yvan Sagnet, who is talking to us from Rome tonight. I would thank you very much. I would like to thank you very much for being present. Yvan will speak to us in French and Milo will translate him into English consecutively, and we can easily talk in English because, as you can see, Yvan has headphones in his ears where our English talk will be translated to him simultaneously by Giacomo Bisordi, which we will not see him, but Yvan can hear him, and he will be very crucial for us tonight. Thank you very much, Giacomo, for your collaboration. Yvan Sagnet is the main actor in the movie. He was born in 1985 in Cameroon and came to Italy in 2008 to study. He studied telecommunication technique in Torino, and for financing these studies, he started to work in the agriculture, and this work made him a political activist. He was becoming the spokesman of the farm workers in the Boncuri farms in Nardo, fighting against a specific Italian way of exploitation of workers on the fields called caporalato. And this fight was a quite successful one. He also wrote a book about it and another one about the life of Italian migrants in the agriculture, about the living conditions of them. He received an important prize. I'm wrong. He received an important order of the state of Italy for his engagement against the exploitation of farm workers. As you have seen in the movie, this fight in the tomato fields around Matera, the city where the movie is made, is very important, I would say, the central topic of the movie. Milo Rau did this movie when he was invited in 2019 to contribute with a film to we're having a little background sound. Now it's muted. While he was invited by the city of Matera, which was the cultural city of Europe in 2019, to contribute an artistic filmic work to this program. And he decided to do something that some very famous people did before in Matera, to roll a movie on Jesus Christ in this Italian Jerusalem in film history. Milo has worked in many different works in different artistic disciplines. Theater and film are the two most important ones, on contemporary questions, contemporary social questions, contemporary post-colonial or decolonial questions of the role of Europe in history and in contemporary times in the frame of justice and injustice in world orders, and brought together in many other work, like he did in this one, professional artists and actors with amateurs and people working in other fields, and bringing their experiences and their opinions into his artwork. Some of the artworks were movies as well, like I would say the most famous one, the Congo Tribunal, about the relationship of African colonial history and Europe. The Moscow Trial was also another one of those movies. Hate Radio, or The Last Days of the Ceausescus were others. Milo Rau is currently the artistic director of NT Gent, which is the city theater of the city of Ghent in Belgium, and also has presented there a quite ambitious work of not only artistic projects, but also social and politically oriented works within the community of the city and also in the international frame. Thank you again for talking to us. And Milo, I would ask you first to talk a little bit more about something we can already partly see in the movie. How did this project started? What were your first plans when traveling to Matera and discussing this offer from the city of Matera, and how did it all end up in the focus you gave it, or it took by itself? I don't know. Let's hear about it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Matthias, for having me here and for this very generous introduction of Yvan and me. So I remember when I got an email by the city of Matera and the consortium of the theaters of the region asking me if I would, as you explained, if I would like to do a project during the 2019 year. So it was in 2017. And as always, I think you answer directly and immediately to an email, or it shifts away, and then that was it. So, and I immediately answered, yes, I want to participate. You said that there's some very important directors. For example, I can mention Pasolini, who did in '64 Jesus film in Matera, and Mel Gibson in 2004. And by accident, I was working in 2016 with Maya Morgenstern on Empire. I don't even remember if we were in Mousonturm too with it. And she was the Holy Mary of Mel Gibson. And I was a big fan of course, of the film of Pasolini. And all this made that this city became the Jerusalem of world cinema, you could say, what you also see in the film. And so I said immediately, yes, I would like to do a Jesus film. And they said, okay, fine. Why not? So it was not what they expected, but at the same time, of course, what they're used to. And then I went there, and ironically, you could say, only by landing there to do the casting. So I asked Enrique, the Jesus of the Pasolini film, and Maya from the other actors, Marcello Fonte, if they want to participate. And but when I went there, I saw the situation around the city. So around the Jerusalem of world cinema and the European city of culture is an unbearable situation, legally unbearable, socially unbearable, politically unbearable. You have 10,000, 100,000 of people that are illegalized by the politics of the refugees, immigrants, by the politics of Italy and the European Union, exploited as cheap labor by the mafia. And by the big enterprises like Lidl and etc. to produce tomatoes or oranges, etc. And of course, I then understood slowly, and together with the help of Yvan, quite fast, that I have to bring these two worlds together, as you can see in the film. And I started to work together with activists there, and I decided first to search for Jesus, of course. So it couldn't be an actor. And actually in Italy, to be honest, there's only Yvan who could take over this role, who has the standing, the agency, who knows the people, who could guide me, and who could fulfill this role to be it in that moment, in that region today. And I was happy enough that he said, more or less immediately, there was a sympathy, and Yvan said yes. And then from there on, we built it up together, and with many other activists you can see in the film, and artists, we started to do it.
let's listen to Yvan's perspective on this encounter. I would be really interested. I mean, of course, you're a political activist, which includes a lot of intellectual works. You wrote these books, so of course it's not an encounter of the third kind, but of course it's probably something unexpected well, it would not have been so unexpected to have a Belgian documentary movie maker coming to you and asking to make a documentary movie about your fight, but making a Jesus movie. What was your first reaction? How long did it take you to accept the challenge? And were you also doubting that this kind of work might defocus you and your co-fighters from that political fight?
Tout d'abord, je voudrais vous remercier les organisateurs, remercier Milo, remercier Matthias, Catherine, le public qui nous suit. Quand Milo m'a contacté, j'ai accepté tout de suite de participer au film parce que Milo m'a raconté un peu, m'a rassuré sur le fait qu'il s'agit d'un film documentaire où il y a des... il m'a raconté que le film, c'est pour des acteurs professionnels et non professionnels. Donc voilà, pour moi déjà, c'était rassurant. Et bon, le fait que je suis religieux, parce que pour moi, j'ai grandi dans une famille croyante, chrétienne, catholique, voilà. Et donc, parler de Jésus, pour moi, c'est familier et c'est quelque chose de très important, c'est ton honneur. Donc, interpréter le rôle de Jésus, pour moi, c'était très important.
So I take this chance to translate. Je vais traduire. I take this chance. Dis bonjour à la famille d'ailleurs. So Yvan says thank you a lot to invite him to this debate, and first of all, and he was quite confident when he heard that he would not be the only non-professional actor in the film, and that there was a mix as a concept. And on the other hand, he's used, of course, to think about Jesus' religion. He comes from a religious family, so this was not so coming from nowhere. So it's for him. He's a believer.
It is maybe this the connection that made you made it possible for you to imagine that this artistic work could also contribute to your political work, or did you just take vacation from the political work in your internal disposition?
Ah, le microphone, Yvan. Le microphone est off. Le microphone est off.
Alors, excusez, Jack, on me demande de répéter la question parce qu'il n'a pas compris la question.
Est-ce que je peux le dire essayer en français aussi?
Ok, d'accord, c'est mieux.
Ma question, c'était comment votre travail artistique a correspondu avec le travail ou la mission politique et sociale que vous avez. Peut-être le figure de Jésus-Christ, comme vous avez dit, vous êtes croyante, vous donner la possibilité de faire cette connexion entre ces deux accès très différents, bien sûr, de créer peut-être changer le monde.
J'ai toujours cru que l'art, c'est un instrument important pour véhiculer le message politique. Voilà, donc quand j'ai compris que je devais interpréter un rôle dans le cinéma, et pour moi, c'était quelque chose un plus, voilà, pour pouvoir transmettre ma bataille politique, et je dois accepter tout de suite. C'est vrai, comme je disais avant, que je n'étais pas un professionnel, mais bon, la partie politique du film m'a rassuré. Et voilà, et à partir de cela, donc, c'était plus facile d'interpréter également celles liées à la religion, celles liées au film concrètement. Donc, je n'ai pas eu de problème à interpréter, à intégrer les deux rôles.
It seems quite natural to Yvan to transmit his message in art, so in a film, for example. On the other hand, again, it's not a problem for him. The political content and the religious content was very clear to him. So actually, no problem to take this decision.
Mm-hmm. Is it because, of course, there's two opposite roles or opinions one could have about Jesus Christ and Christianity. On the one hand, of course, this is not the first artistic attempt or contemporary attempt to understand and describe Jesus Christ and his followers as a revolutionary movement in its time, and as of course something that is a huge role model for nowadays and for political and social fights against injustice today. On the other hand, in the name of this religion, most of the injustices in the last centuries of world history have been legitimized, and many cruel things have happened under this name. You both united Milo as the director and Yvan in the role of Jesus Christ, a larger number of other non-professional actors, migrants, them too, and maybe also fighters in this movement. Probably not every one of them are Christians as well. Were there a lot of discussion about the acting out and adapting to this role? This is maybe a question to both of you, but I would like to ask Yvan first again.
Si, j'ai toujours pensé que le rôle de Jésus, c'est un rôle universel. Le message de Jésus est universel parce que si vous lisez bien la Bible attentivement, vous allez constater que son message, c'est un message qui s'adresse à tout le monde, à tous les peuples. C'est un message également qui va au-delà de toutes les religions, que tu sois musulman, chrétien, non-croyant. Beaucoup se reconnaissent au message du Christ. Donc, voilà, le message du Christ, pour moi, est adapté à nos temps aujourd'hui. Comme on l'a toujours dit, le rôle du film, c'est Jésus aujourd'hui. Le message du film, c'est Jésus. En fait, c'est Jésus aujourd'hui, après 2000 ans, avec qui il serait. Donc, voilà, je pense que Jésus serait avec les pauvres, Jésus serait avec des personnes démunies, les personnes qui souffrent des masses populaires. Et Jésus, aujourd'hui, qui serait-il? Je pense que je m'identifie à Jésus. Jésus serait un syndicaliste, serait un activiste, serait tout en fait, tout ce qui est lié au peuple, tout ce qui est lié à la justice sociale. Voilà. Donc, j'ai pas... pour moi, la figure de Jésus est positive et je n'ai pas eu de problème à pouvoir l'interpréter. Et voilà.
So for him, the message of Jesus, the figure of Jesus, is a universal one, and this message goes below all the different religions. So it's a universal, it's a human one. For him, especially important, he says, is the social activist part. So with whom would Jesus fight today? what would he be? And he think it would be a social activist. He would be somebody who fights for the poor, for the illegals, etc. So he could quite simply identify with him with this role. So it seemed quite natural to him. If I can add, perhaps to the first part of your question, Matthias, of course, the problem of the Bible and of the religion is that it was appropriated by the church, in my humble opinion, and we have to reappropriate it. And perhaps every generation, every decade, every region of the world has to reappropriate it as long it has any meaning still for us. And that's what we try to do, exactly with what Yvan says. We search Jesus and the meaning of the religion outside these structures you described, these imperial structures, actually, that was more or less erasing other possible interpretations. So by including most of the apostles are Muslims, we have women that are apostles, we have non-believers. For example, I'm a non-believer. In the meaning that I would believe in the God of the Bible. So it's for me, I brought my interpretation. I think everybody brings his own interpretation, and I think that's what we try to do, to really land, to realize the story in Matera, but also around Matera today. And not make a Jesus film that would only be a historical film, only be a spiritual film, but a political film.
From the spiritual ground, a little bit more to the political one, because there is also truly one kind of salvation, a contemporary salvation to be seen in the movie. We learn a lot about the fights on the tomato fields, the fights of the farm workers, and in the end of the movie, we can see a success of this fight, a fair traded a tomato can in the supermarket, and it's also an alternative hypothesis of this movie, which obviously from the Passion of Christ would just end up on the cross, and maybe in a kind of more individual uprising. And I would like to know, because there's also some pictures in the movie that portray the irritation that some of the fighters gain when they are confronted with the camera, and then they are confronted with characters, and it's mixed up with political demonstrations and fights, and they are saying this is not a movie, this is a political fight. How did this fight, Yvan, developed? Because it is not the only place you have engaged yourself in Italy. What was specific on this tomato crusade, let's say, around Matera in these last years, before and whilst you were doing the movie?
Allora, nel film vediamo, metti in muto che ti traduco.
Ça n'a pas été facile au début parce que entre être un acteur et être un activiste et interpréter les deux rôles dans un scénario comme celui du film n'était pas facile. Parce qu'il y a certains moments, certaines scènes où on ne savait pas si c'est dans du cinéma où nous sommes ou c'est dans la réalité où nous sommes. Je me rappelle certaines scènes où, avec les télécaméras de Milo et de toute la production qui était derrière moi, et moi j'étais concentré plus à faire mon meeting à l'intérieur du ghetto, pour dire aux activistes leurs droits et, voilà, et d'autres choses liées aux problèmes sociaux des travailleurs. Et j'avais des caméras à côté de moi et voilà, et là, les gens me regardaient et certains se demandaient c'est quoi, c'est un film ou c'est un meeting réel, voilà. Donc, on était deux fois dans certains endroits à limite. Mais bon, la question politique est très, très forte. Elle était très, très forte, ce qui faisait donc que voilà, j'oubliais qu'il y avait les télécaméras derrière moi, qu'il y avait les gens derrière moi, la production, parce que j'étais dans mon rôle d'activiste. Bon, après, je me suis adapté, quoi. Et pour tout le monde, pas seulement pour moi, mais également pour les activistes, parce que quand ils ont compris les autres activistes qui étaient impliqués au film, quand ils ont compris que en fait c'est pas un film comme les autres, mais c'est un moyen pour eux également de transmettre leurs différents rôles, les différentes actions qu'ils font dans la vie sociale. Alors voilà, ils se sont complètement mis sans penser à l'œuvre, sans penser au film. Et
I will just
oui.
je fais une petite
Oui.
première partie.
Oui.
So, of course, there was, especially in the beginning, confusion. At some moments, is this a film? Is this a social action for Yvan? He remembers entering camps, and then it was filmed, and then, but the more that it continued, the more he could also forget this camera and just do his political work. And I think he thinks the same happened with the other activists. That in the beginning, they had to somehow to adapt, to get used to. But when they understood how it works, and that, of course, it was just for them a mean to translate their, propagate their actions, they also started to adapting to it better.
Je pense que, comme également dans le cinéma réel, un bon acteur, c'est celui qui entre complètement dans le rôle et interprète complètement le scénario, voilà, qui transmet le film comme si c'était une réalité, voilà. Et c'est ça, en fait, ce que on a fait, nous, comme activistes qui étaient dans le film, voilà. Et je peux dire que notre message, le film nous a laissé cette campagne, en fait, nous a laissé cette campagne. Le film, ce n'était pas seulement un film documentaire, mais c'était une grande campagne. Une campagne sur la lutte pour les droits, la lutte contre l'injustice, la lutte pour la paix, pour la solidarité, pour la fraternité. C'était ça, en fait, tout ça, ça faisait partie du film. Et tous les activistes, après le film, on a continué cette bataille, on continue toute cette bataille entre-temps. Et le film, c'était une lancée de regroupement politique de toutes les réalités qui étaient tout autour du territoire et qui, de fois, avaient des difficultés à se mettre ensemble. Donc, grâce à Milo Rau, on a pu former un grand réseau d'activistes, chacun dans son domaine, moi dans le domaine de la lutte contre l'exploitation des travailleurs, d'autres dans le domaine de la lutte contre l'exploitation des paysans de la part des multinationales, d'autres contre la traite de la prostitution. Voilà, on s'est mis tous ensemble grâce au film, grâce à cette campagne que le film a dénommée la révolte de la dignité, la révolte de la dignité. Et ce mouvement est né et on est en train de construire, malgré toutes les difficultés, des très, très bonnes choses en Italie et dans l'Europe. Et les produits dont dont tu as cité sont un des résultats de cette campagne que nous avons mis en action.
Yeah, he said he thinks that in every film, so it was a little remark in the beginning, you have to go really inside the role, and even if it was not a fictional film, it was also what he did and what the others did. But he says that this was not really a film, it was more a campaign. campaign La Rivolta, the Revolt of Dignity, that constructed a big network of activists that are still working together now. You can see it in the distribution of the tomatoes in Europe. Very different activists that came together from the side of Italian farm workers, from activists for refugee rights, fighting against illegality, activists against prostitution, and all they are, thanks to the film, still working together, and it's a big network that is going on and on until now.
To unmute myself too. May I ask you, Milo, about this relation again between the people that are appearing in the movie? Your artwork, your movies or your theater work, they are really dealing with big moral, political, social questions, but not in an abstract way. They are always trying to create encounters and interactions of concrete peoples and persons that that will be dealing, be that in a confrontative or in a discursive way, in a dialogue or in an impossibility of this dialogue with each other. And in this movie, of course, we don't only see some former actors from other Jesus movies interacting with migrants in Italy and in Europe from those social fights and confrontations we have now talked about, but we also see a lot of other people in this movie. You have casted also many of the roles in the movie, be it bigger or smaller roles, extras or characters among the population of Matera. And we see those people interact. We even see, in a kind of making of the movie within the movie, we see casting scenes like this very impressive and for me most brutal one in the whole movie, where the Catholic local person to be casted or asked what he would like to do. He will try out in front of the casting camera a scene as a soldier that beats up Jesus Christ, and it becomes explicitly or implicitly a very racist, a scene of a huge rage and a racist violence just against a chair. But we also see even tourists passing through, relating to what happens, be it the social fight and the demonstration, or be it the Jesus filmmaking in a city where most of the tourists even just go because it's the city of Jesus filmmaking. So maybe they wouldn't even probably be able to say whether it's just another Jesus movie made or it's just something for the tourists that they do every day, so they might feel it. So about this relationship between the people in your movie and these encounters or disencounters, I would like to ask you again. And before I will give you the word, I would also encourage the audience of this talk to send us questions through the chat on YouTube. These questions will be transferred to us through our YouTube chat, through our chat here, and I can then present them also to Milo and Yvan. But Milo, no, please first.
Yeah, you addressed, I think, an element that is in all my work very important, that's the casting in itself. I'm completely obsessed by you could say, by meeting people, and I could think that perhaps even my art projects are kind of alibis to create new relations, to really understand how a city or a region works. And of course, Jesus film or every film is a kind of a tool that you make together with the people on location, is a tool to understand the structures of a society, the different agents of a society. And you have, for example, of course, the activists, you have the police, you have the believers, you have the tourists, you have the kind of the people that are more related, like Marcello Fonte or Enrique Azzocchi, to this cinematographic tradition of the city. And then you have people that is just living there. And when somebody plays tries to incorporate a role. For example, in the case of this Italian half professional actor who comes to the casting to play one of the soldiers, and we ask him, now torture the black Jesus. What would you say? What would you do? And then you have an incredible outburst of racism, of structural violence. The big question for me is not, is this guy a racist? My question is why all of us would know what to do in a casting when you ask him to torture the black Jesus. And we would exactly know what to do and what the prejudices are. And all this is kind of, is there. And, you know, this kind of improvisation and this kind of using a story to let appear a violence that in the real reality is kind of invisible. I think that's what you can do in this kind of approach or projects. And on the good side and on the, as you said, on the bad side, and then it becomes a moral question, but it becomes also a structural question. If I'm a biggest fan of the film of Pasolini, but one thing I never understood, why does the film is completely without any violence, the film of Pasolini, and as you know from Mel Gibson there's only violence, but you can't read it as a structural violence. But when you have a state that kills somebody slowly on the cross, what kind of violent system has this to be? And then I wanted to understand the violent economic system that illegalizes, puts in slavery thousands and hundred thousands of people because of their skin color. That's what it is. And because they have no passports, they are not citizens. And it's normalized, this situation. Our agriculture functions like this. It's not just an exception that somebody would make a mistake. It's a system, you know, that works on and on since generations. And I ask myself, what is this violence? How can I make it visible like it is possible in this kind of improvisation or allegoric popular theater we are doing there somehow.
Of course, you are using a lot of burdened material or strong imagery and imaginative material, and on the level of the very beautiful photography of this movie, this is also of course very ironically commented already in the first scene. Like we have this beautiful Mediterranean images, but also both of you are standing on this balcony in the first scene, and you're talking about the hill on the other side where Golgotha is, and how you can still find the holes of the crosses they used for the other Jesus movies, and you can reuse them, and they may click if you put the cross inside. So it's a really simple system. But another level.
Unfortunately, it was then in the end I found out that there is these holes are not working anymore, and there's no click. But yeah,
yeah, but it was really a beautiful imagination of that, and a good comment on all the imagery that comes to us. Also through this great camera work, but there is another I don't know the English word for it, another Ebene in this movie, another level in this movie, which is the sound, and which of course carries all the beautiful but of course very loaded classical music, not only of those films, but of Christian tradition in itself. And this, of course, is something that underlines these images, and I think a third element is the costumes you're using in the film. What kind of relationship did you try to put these filmic and historic or pseudo-historic, but at least in our collective imaginary of a past, which of course did never happen in that way, as it is presented in the movie. Which role did this play when you planned this movie, also with your collaborators on these different levels?
I mean, you have with a Jesus film, you have two possibilities actually, and I think also with a Greek film or a Roman film in general. And I think Pasolini was a quite good role model for this, to find costumes that come somehow from that time. You have many quotes, but at the same time, they are kind of Sudanese costumes, and we made a mix to find a kind of a timeless use of these costumes. It's perhaps even more interesting on the music level that you also mentioned, because there you have also the role model of Pasolini. And Pasolini, for example, used sometimes I feel like a motherless child. So he used this that you know from the farms, the slave farms of the South, the cotton farms, these songs, and he mixed it with Mozart and with music that we also used. So for us, of course, you can't use this music anymore. And then we were asking Vinicio Caposella, you could say the Bob Dylan of Italy. He helped us so much with the campaign that he would do new versions of this film, of this music. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child, but rooted in the south of Italy, in the working class movement. And he made new tracks. For example, we had this Woody Guthrie song that was so important for the campaign, This Land Is Your Land. You perhaps know that song. Everybody knows it. And he made an Italian version of it, based on a classic that was sung somewhere in the 50s or 60s. And we started to make a lot of kind of quotes. You also mentioned the images we use. Of course, you have every image you do in a Jesus film is kind of, you have the 500 possibilities that in the from Caravaggio to Mel Gibson somehow were used. So you have for the Last Supper, of course, you can go from Leonardo da Vinci to, I don't know, Bill Viola. So you have really, you are in the middle of what you say, of a kind of this cultural dream of images that is going on and repeated since 2000 years. And you have kind of somehow to inscribe you. And I think that's something that now the film is in cinemas, in real cinemas in Switzerland, because they reopened, that you see really when it's the big one, and you see the composition of the images, because we worked a lot with modern elements, antique elements, and mixing them together, or the touristic approach and the more puristic approach, like in a real Jesus film. So how we mix that. So we worked a lot about it. Of course, the Mediterranean Sea, the sea is a very important, and another image that we have, and so on. And then you are in Matera, and in Matera, every corner was used for this or that film, not only Jesus film, but all kind of mostly Roman films. And you find yourself in all this kind of parallels and palimpsests that you can use.
I have one more question, which is about you mentioned him already, Enrique Irazoki, the Jesus in the Pasolini movie, which was participating in this one. I think it was his last role, because he passed away shortly after the finishing of this movie, and he appears as John the Baptist. So somehow in the Bible tradition, that one that initiated Jesus Christ through his baptism and was a kind of predecessor of this story, encountering him for this movie and bringing him together with this very radically different approach we have discussed so far, and also all have seen in this movie. How was it? Was he like immediately in it, or did you have to convince him, Yvan, when you met him, Was it kind of strange, or was it kind of familiar, or was it just a regular encounter of somebody you just meet for the first time? I would be really curious about this.
Perhaps I start quickly. It was not so difficult to convince him, because he also knew Marcello Fonte, he knew also Vinicio Capossela, and for him, even the first Jesus film was a political one. And he was, as a student, he was very political. He knew Pasolini because he came to Italy to networking for the anti-Franco movement. So, and his whole life he was political. But at the same time, of course, he had, and he's not an actor, you know. He did the Pasolini film, and I think he did one more. And then he did a video clip with Vinicio Capossela, but it's really like, and then he did our film. And that's what he did. He's a professor for literature, and a chess player, and an activist, and a very clever and very good friend. But it was not difficult, of course. Then on the ground, it was sometimes a bit difficult with him, because just out of the fact that, as you say, our approach is a bit radical. But it was difficult for everybody, and he took it with a lot of humor, and you can also see him in different roles. And for me, the important thing, you know, the film starts somehow with John the Baptist, the Pasolini Jesus, giving the role to Ivan as the new Jesus. And in the end of the film, but that's not in anymore, we went to Rome, and we made another baptizing. We had an activist from Africa, and Jesus, Ivan, was baptizing this activist that he then would be in Congo, by the way, on the plantation of Renzo Martens, do the next Jesus film. So I think it's a series of baptizing and going on. And I think Enrique was very happy to be in this story included.
Enrico, Enrico è stata una persona speciale. Come diceva Milo, excusez-moi, Eric, c'est une personne spéciale, très difficile de caractère, mais très, très intelligente. Lui, alors peut-être c'était l'âge, et lui, on avait on a la même idéologie, on a les mêmes valeurs. On est tous marxistes. Moi, je suis marxiste comme il est marxiste. Mais il est pessimiste. Moi, je suis optimiste. Peut-être parce qu'il a vécu plusieurs années et il n'a pas vu ce changement venir. Au contraire. En plus, disons, il dit, voilà, les classes populaires ont perdu la bataille. Moi, je dis, je suis un peu comme Jésus. J'ai toujours de l'espoir. Je pense que les classes populaires vont vaincre les classes dominantes, je pense.
I have to translate before I forget. So Enrique Razzocchi is, Ivan says, a bit difficult but very clever person, and he's a fighter like Ivan. But on the opposite of Ivan, he's a pessimist, and Ivan is an optimist. Even if they share the basic values, they are both Marxists and they are fighters. But Enrique, yeah, that's true, repeated again and again that we lost the fight. The classe populaire, the popular classes, lost the fight. And Yvan Sagnet, more like Jesus, he says he doesn't think that the classe populaire can lose the fight, and they didn't.
Yeah, I also think that was maybe the main difference between the Pasolini version of this Jesus story and your version of this Jesus story, the pessimistic and the optimistic outcome. How was it in Matera? I mean, you arrived there, you were invited to do a contribution to their Cultural City of Europe's program, and you decided to work on the outskirts and on the situation in the outskirts. You described this in the beginning. I mean, we see the mayor of Matera becoming part of the movie, deciding not to be Pontius Pilatus, but Simon, who's bearing the cross for Jesus or carrying it for a while. But what was the reaction in the beginning, and how was it in the outcome, of course, when this film came out and also became such a success? And the same question to you, Yvan. I don't know, like how often you are present in Matera or around, but yeah, has it become more difficult because now you also have to deal the whole time with this image of not only being the political activist you are, but also a Jesus?
I have to say that the collaboration with Matera, this cultural capital, was very cool. We had our little struggles as always. We had money problems as always, etc., etc. But I think it was really a crazy experience for let's say the curators of the city and for us. And as you say, that it became this kind of an international success as a film. You wouldn't have thought this when you were there, because it was really the shooting of it was quite crazy. But we found Matera has even a minister of film. So these people are really used to the crazy stuff. So you would, and when you make a casting call in Matera, you have for every role 50 people that would apply, and it's beautiful to work there. It's really it's made for it. So I think the decision to do a Jesus film was also professionally a very good one. And you can imagine that in another city you would have conflicts, etc. But I think they even the mayor. By the way, he's 84. He was already in the Jesus film of Pasolini as an extra. So he's all participating in different Jesus films, and yeah, they were super open to it. I have to say.
Disons que beaucoup de choses n'ont pas changé. C'est vrai que le film a connu un certain exploit. Nous attendons encore la sortie du film à Matera, parce que le film n'est pas encore sorti à Matera. Et je pense que quand ça va sortir à Matera, quand le public va voir le film, ça va donner une autre dimension également. Et le problème de Matera, c'est l'indifférence. Comme le problème dans toutes les villes, dans toutes les villes d'Italie, il y a beaucoup de gens qui sont indifférents. Et il y a un autre problème, ce sont les autorités. Les autorités n'admettent pas, ils n'aiment pas quand on les dise la vérité, ils n'aiment pas quand on les dise qu'il y a des problèmes autour de la ville, qu'il y a des problèmes d'exploitation, qu'il y a des problèmes de misère et de mafia. Voilà, les autorités voient cela comme un affront, voient cela comme une façon de dire voilà, qu'ils ont mal travaillé, et ils n'aiment pas, ils mettent les bâtons sur les roues aux activistes qui se battent pour dénoncer cela. Et ils ont tendance donc à cacher ces problèmes. On a un système qui rend ces problèmes invisibles, qui rend les personnes exploitées invisibles. Et nous, comme activistes qui cherchons de dénoncer ça tout le temps, on a des problèmes. Ils nous mettent des bâtons sur les roues, voilà. Mais le plus important, la chose la plus belle, et je termine sur ça, c'est qu'il y a une partie de la population qui commence à prendre conscience, de ces problèmes. Même à Matera, il y a beaucoup de gens qui nous ont demandé, mais où est-ce qu'on peut trouver les produits NOCAP ici à Matera, où est-ce qu'on peut, voilà, il y a une certaine, grâce au film, il y a eu une certaine montée de la conscience de la population, mais pas des politiciens, pas de la majeure partie des autorités.
Yeah, so the film is at that moment not distributed already in, for example, Matera. It starts I think in Matera we are in the beginning of July, if we are happy. It was postponed several times because of the reasons we all know. And he thinks he's a bit more pessimistic than me, but I think much more on the ground, so he knows how it really is. Of course, let's say on the economic, but also on the political side, they don't like if you show what they want to hide. So, for example, the poverty, the illegality around Matera. And of course, here the project helped, and the fact that the film was shown here and there, the people has another consciousness of what is really happening there, and things are changing. And he thinks that if the film really then is released after Corona in the cinemas, also in Italy, the impact will be big, and we will see what then additionally can move.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe it's now at the end of this talk also important to mention that the association you founded, you also already mentioned it, and it's called No Cap, No Al Capo Ralato, is also like an active organization against the exploitation of the farm workers, fighting for a better and more ethical, more dignified working conditions. That includes, of course, fair payment, fair contracts, and access to medical structures. And one of the results of this engagement you have initiated are products like those we saw in the end of the movie, which have this kind of application on it that says no cap. And there's a website which is nocap.italy.it, nocap.it, and you can also order those products here in Germany. You can make solidarity travel to those places we are shown in the movie, and to this project under the website öko-und-fair.de, öko-und-fair.de. So check it out. I think that's a very interesting project that will live on, and that will need your support and all of our support. Thank you very much for this very interesting talk. At least for me, it was very interesting. We received no questions, but congratulations by the team of the Lichter Filmfest in Frankfurt. They congratulate both of you to the nomination to the German documentary movie prize. So you're nominated, and we are all crossing our fingers that you win it, because you deserve it. Thank you very much, Yvan. Thank you very much, Milo. And yeah, everybody who's watching us, please recommend the movie to everybody else you know. It will be distributed further on this new system that has been developed in Corona times, that you watch it online, but you pay it through a local cinema of your choice. This was also a beautiful initiative of your distribution company, and hopefully at very soon, not only in Matera in Italy, but everywhere in the world, we can also see it on the big screen, because of course we mentioned these beautiful pictures and this beautiful sound. Oh, this really makes it worth to see it again in the cinema. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matthias. Thank you, everybody, for the invitation. Thank you, Lichterfest, of course, that you show the film, and everybody who wants to support the campaign that Matthias mentioned. It goes directly to the company of Yvan and the other activists to produce fair trade tomatoes and to bring people out of slavery and give documents. So yeah, öko-plus-und-fair.de. Thank you so much.
Merci à vous. Merci, parce que je pense que la conscience collective, c'est ça qui va changer le monde. Ce film naît pour défendre cette conscience. La conscience, par exemple, sur l'achat critique des produits est important, parce que le système mondial aujourd'hui économique se base sur ça, sur la consommation, qui a comme unique objectif la maximisation du profit, sur la peau des plus faibles. Donc, nous voulons remettre la dignité, redonner la dignité à les personnes, aux travailleurs. Et pour faire cela, on a besoin de tout le monde. Il y a beaucoup de produits italiens qui vont en Allemagne, qui vont aux États-Unis. Donc, voilà. Les consommateurs allemands doivent savoir que derrière chaque produit, il y a la vie des personnes, il y a la dignité des personnes. Donc, il faut soutenir cela. Merci, Yvan.
Yvan underlines again that this is a film that is working on the collective consciousness, and collectively we can change. The consumers should know, and that's his message, that behind every product is the dignity of a human being. So take care what you buy, and see you soon.